And here we go. It is another game between King John VI, the red player, down here on the south, and GoogleFrog, the blue player, up here on the north. GoogleFrog is up here near the present, optimizing his build, building very quickly. He's got an importer and 4 resource processors out. It looks like he's going to be going for the standard rush that he usually goes for. At about 2 minutes 30, he's going to have a factory and lances on the field. And he's going to use those to very quickly hit John VI, King John, and, you know, try to beat him with a rush. King John is, on the other hand, is opting for 6 RP build. This can be somewhat dangerous because it means that the player is going to have less resources when they get rushed, because it takes approximately a minute or more for a resource processor to pay themselves off. So until about 2 minutes into the game, he's not going to have as many resources as he could to respond to a threat from GoogleFrog. Also, GoogleFrog likes to play very near to the unplayable past. So at about this point in time, GoogleFrog might choose to attack King John, and there is little King John can do about it, because it's so close to the unplayable past. He can't go back and clear his resource processor builds, and then reuse that resources in building the units, because he can't. It's just so close to the unplayable past. Here's King John's initial rush/investigation. Most racers and players choose to do this at the beginning of the game, to investigate what their opponent has and what they're doing, and to possibly push them into spending some of their resources to counter the threat. But meanwhile, GoogleFrog has a lancer up and has attacked King John's Tethvi. I wonder if King John is going to see that GoogleFrog already has lancers out on the field and is using them to attack. He hasn't changed. The only thing he's done is stop the Tethvi from attacking. He's building no units at the moment. He probably doesn't have the resources. And okay, now he's got a Teth Pulsar, which is a very bad idea to be putting out on the field. Is it? No, Teth Pulsars are good against that, aren't they? Yes, actually, so this is a good idea. The Teth Pulsar would be able to counter GoogleFrog's Lancer Rush, which is starting now. And the Pulsar is almost out. That Pulsar would be able to destroy the Lancer. So, what are they going to do? GoogleFrog is sending out more Lancers. He's not building any at this point in time. He might not have the resources. And he's spending resources on Cube Plasma right here. He might be going for a more technology-based build than usual. Especially considering he now has an extra RP on this box, which really, for a long-term game, is not a smart thing to do, because if you have multiple resources on a box, you're going to run out of resources there very quickly, and because it's in your base, it is the most defended area on the map for you. So once it gets further into the game, this will be the most defended place for GoogleFrog. But he would have run out of resources here, so it's almost pointless to defend. And because King John is Vecchia, he can upgrade his units to self-teleport around the map, and therefore fight off GoogleFrog's attempts at scavenging resources much more easily than anybody else would be able to. As you can see further in the past, GoogleFrog is now attacking with his units. He's sent his lancers up to the back behind the RPs. He's going to use them to, as we call it, tap the RPs. That is, they simply shoot the RPs like you can see here. I'll go back. If you watch the RPs, they'll be shot and then closed, just like that. When they're closed, it means that they will not harvest resources. However, they have more health and therefore more defense than if they were open. I wonder what exactly KingJohn's going to do. It's going to be hard for him to stop the landsticks. And they're focusing so much on his RPs, which means he's losing considerable amounts of resources simply while they're closed. Meanwhile, GoogleFrog is sitting around unchallenged, building lots of resources and buildings, and now he's throwing up a macro fab. He's going to be, I bet that GoogleFrog is going to start building both frigates and Mars, which is a very lethal combination and very, very typical of GoogleFrog. He would just pump out lots and lots of frigates and Mars. Mars and frigates are both very good against their respective types. Frigates have a really, really high DPS against air units, and Mars have a really, really high DPS against ground units. And because they're both a flying and a ground unit, they can both be put in the same army for considerable combined power. If King John doesn't go back in time and attack GoogleFrog right now, then GoogleFrog will have the advantage. He's already building a second macro fab. But King John has the advantage, has a slight advantage. He is expanding, something GoogleFrog isn't doing. However, King John has significantly less resource processors than GoogleFrog does, so he's not going to be getting as many units. However, he does have an aerial control center up, so he's probably going to be building bombers, or maybe shin pulsers now, or back in the past, and then using them to molest GoogleFrog's resource processors. Yes, and now he's expanding, just like I thought he should do. This will increase the amount of resources he can get. And also because it's more spread out from his base, it'll be harder for GoogleFrog to tap. However, tapping isn't exactly a worry at this point. GoogleFrog is building an army. He's building tanks, and Mars. So, let's see just what exactly King John will do. If he can manage to get his, units out there, if he builds some Shin Turkers, which are Vekir bombing units, he might be able to stop this attack. But both players are in the past and they're changing things, so we'll see what exactly he does. GoogleFrog is now expanding, and he's moving some an RP out and laying down an importer. CISO tends to do this. They tend to spread their buildings out. That's because to build lots of units very quickly, they need importers and lots of factories. And it looks like King John is countering GoogleFrog's attack, but he has tanks. Tanks can do pretty good damage against air units. And he has a Shin Turtle, which is very good because it is a bomber. Meanwhile though, it's just not enough to face GoogleFrog's force. However, both players are further back in time. Now there are 3 units, but still, that looks like it will not be enough. Even though 2 of them are Shin Turtles. It is not enough. Unless King John starts sending out Zion units. The tanks are just going to steamroll him right now. A single Zion Pulsar is not going to do much. Not against 3 tanks. And now 2 frigates. This isn't looking good for King John at all. And now GoogleFrog is going in for the attack. We'll see how that turns out later, because King John is further back in time. Changing things, it's best to see what exactly he's changing, as this will very likely be the final outcome of the battle.